Ready?
Yes.
We'll call to order the regular board meeting for July 2022. It is the mission of the Solon Community School District to engage each and every student in rigorous and relevant learning experiences, maximizing achievement through exceptional teaching. Chris, can you call the roll?
I will. Wolf. Here. Rockholz. Here. Gillespie.
Here.
Brown.
Here.
Coons is on his way, but absent at the time, and student member Hillary Wilson will be running late as well, but I will know when she arrives.
Welcome to anybody that's joining us online. Day of the Celebration of Achievements.
Yeah, we had the cheerleaders attend a camp.
Yep, the cheerleaders, 9 of the 20 some cheerleaders attended a camp and got it's a gold one, or got a #1 rating. And this is one of the first years that we are doing actually, is it like stunt cheerleading? So we have a new person that is the sponsor from last year, this year, that used to go to school here in stunt, and lots of excitement for cheerleading. Hi, Dan. It is 5:32. Coons arrived. Welcome.
You can thank the city for that.
Yes.
Focus on learning, Davis.
You want to talk about our admin retreat?
Yeah, August 2nd. We're gonna head to Des Moines as part of our SAI School Administrators of Iowa Conference, heading to Drake University that afternoon. We've been facilitated by Dr. Doug Stillwell, who former superintendent, elementary principal, really well known around the state in regards to systems thinking. And it's going to walk us through, facilitate us through kind of a process to take a look at our vision, mission statement, look at our strategic plan, and tie all those pieces together. We're really looking at examining the mission and vision statement through a student-centered lens. Earlier this year, as an admin team, we read a book, and one of the chapters in the book really challenged us to think differently about our vision and mission statement, to really make it more geared towards what do students need versus what do teachers do for students versus what do we need to focus on for kids. So kind of actually really excited for that opportunity. Dave and I both have a relationship with Dr. Stillwell just in our careers across the span of our careers. He was actually my dissertation chairperson, so but highly respected at Drake University. So we'll spend the afternoon with him and really dig into making some of those connections between mission, vision, strategic plan, goals, priorities. Come back with some recommendations based on that.
Is it just you guys?
Just the admin, just our admin team and him. We're going to spend the whole afternoon with him. And what typically we talk about our strategic plan for next year, make some recommendations, but we're holding off until August so that we can have this afternoon to really, based upon our learnings from this year and the work we've done with Portrait of a Graduate, to really go back through that, like Josh said, really scrutinizing the mission and the vision and making it more student-centered, student-focused than adult.
It's also an opportunity because we have a new administrative team that's probably coming on board and all is new. Just that opportunity to collaborate together and learn a little bit more about each other and kind of our roles and responsibilities within operationalizing our strategic plans. Really excited about it.
This will coincide with our SAI conference.
Okay.
So typically we go up, it's a Wednesday, Thursday conference. We typically go up Tuesday afternoon, get checked in, and then bright and early Wednesday morning. But we're going to go up early Tuesday and spend the day with Doug, Dr. Stillwell, get that work done and coincide it with our SAI.
Something we haven't done necessarily in the
So one of the things I've always recommended when I was on the SIAC committee was that we do a really great job of setting ourselves goals, but we don't always put actions to them.
Yep.
So that'd be part of that discussion.
Yes.
Yes.
Action that he's gonna, because he's big on it.
And we talked about, and he's on board with follow-up. So we're gonna spend the afternoon with them, and then we're gonna schedule some sessions throughout the year where he'll come to us and we'll follow up to make sure that we cover all of it. Yeah, yeah.
My little boss would say it's like a grasshopper. Kind of go and step behind it, it jumps. And you have to kind of step behind it again, and it jumps. I mean, that's what follow-up becomes, right? You just do it once, and you're just gonna stay.
Yeah, and that's what we talked about. We don't want it to be an event, we want it to be ongoing.
Ongoing, yeah.
And I think just with his experience as a superintendent administrator. 20, 30 years, he's been really pushing.
Who did we use last time when we updated this, what, maybe 6 years ago?
Joe Crozier, the chief administrator at AEA. Yeah,
I mean, I thought that was a good process. That's why I'm too excited to see what you guys kind of come back. with,
Yeah.
because we overhauled it the first time. and
yeah.
we did.
Thanks, Josh. Any board committee updates? I don't think we have anything to do tonight. Does anybody have?
Yeah, the only thing I had written down is board policy committee, but only because we'll talk about that with action items, so.
I've got a quick admin report if you want,
Oh,
just a
yeah,
couple bullets, just to update the board. Just, hey Hillary, congratulations on your softball honor.
Thank you.
Johnson County Sheriff's Department, we typically open our doors to Johnson County Sheriff's Department to do training within our buildings. We think it's a win-win for us because they get very familiar with our buildings, and they conducted a tactical training Monday in the middle school. They spent time there. We're having the Sheriff's Department, we're working on scheduling the week of the 8th for reps from the Sheriff's Department. Deputy Wisman, who has kids in our system. Yep. And Rudish also has kids in our system. They are going to working on matching our schedules, come in, walk through our buildings with administrators, just to walk and talk and get a good feel, an understanding of them. And then they're also going to return in August and speak with each specific school staff when all staff return in August. We've kind of rearranged our orientation days with staff so that we can fit this in and dedicate some time where they can come in and just talk about some best practice and maybe specific to that building and answer questions for our staff, start the year. Our transportation building, talked with Joe earlier. He would like to, we had left it as July 1st, 2023, unless both parties mutually agree. He would really like to push it up to December 31st, the end of the year, as far as him getting out. I talked to Pat about, fiscal years and all that stuff, and she thought it would be, moving some things around would be okay if that was gonna work best. So we'll, and then come back in August, we'll start having conversations about what that looks like, that transition looks like, and then the idea of having maybe our own district mechanic and things like that, start talking about that when we come back in August. So the transition and we'll still be in no rush. I know last month we hired ISG to really go through all of our facilities. I let Joe know that's one facility that we'll have them go through, kind of give us some ideas on a vision and kind of what we want to see that building and that property. We talked about a canopy for the buses to go under with electrical boxes and things like that. So I told Joe we'll be out there quite a bit, and he's opened the door for us starting now. We wanted to make it very clear. If there's anything that we need, if there's things that we want to start moving onto the property, he's he welcomes it. So, nope, not scheduled yet. Yep.
And then an assessment of all the items.
The assessment, did we find out who bring in that?
No, but I'll reach out to Nathan to see at ISG to see if would have anyone in their pocket. Yeah.
I would suggest maybe an auctioneer.
Okay.
They know what things are worth.
Oh, okay.
And the options, that kind of thing.
We're probably going to need to talk about too. There's a lot of items that we won't have any use for. That
And so.
what avenue do we want to go with getting rid of those items? Yeah.
It depends on the value of them.
Yeah.
Right.
Because we've got rules about if they're over a certain value, disposal of district property. We'd have to know what that limit is. Anything else, Davis?
Nope.
Okay.
Consent agenda?
Next up is the consent agenda. Anyone that need to pull off? Hearing none, do I have a motion?
So
Motion to approve the consent agenda as presented,
Second.
second by Wolf. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. First up is transportation fees under action items. Davis, do you want
Yeah.
to
So
explain to us what's going on there?
Yeah, the
That's why
state
there's no attachment to the agenda.
just wanted to make a recommendation or put this out there. So the state of Iowa, we have guidelines to where we are required by law to transport kids to and from school. We are not required if those kids live within a 2-mile radius of the school. We provide transportation for kids within the 2-mile radius. Those kids within the 2-mile radius, we do charge a fee. And the fee has been $100 per child or $200 per household or family max. The law differentiates K-8 and 912. And so 912 goes out to 3 miles. And we've had that on our list too. So a sophomore living 2.5 miles out would not be necessarily eligible for transportation. And so there's a fee that we charge there too. So in hopes of making it more understandable for families when they register and to clean up registration, and then to compensate for the double in price of fuel and the added costs that we put into our transportation, drivers and things like that. We're proposing $150 straight across K-12 regardless, within 2 miles, $150 per child or $250 per household.
You say regardless.
Of the 2 to 3 mile for a high school kid, we'll just pick you up. They're very, very few. We could charge you, but we're not going to. Not going to. We're going to take that off. We'll pick you up. We're only talking about within the 2 mile.
By the law, we are not required to, but we do provide that.
Yes. Yes. None of that will change. That was just a proposal to simplify it, clean it up, and to bring in a little bit more revenue to offset the cost.
I think it's reasonable.
Yeah, it hits us, so I agree. I think it's
Since
reasonable,
I've
but
been here
understandable.
as in the office, that price has never gone up. So for 11 years, we've been charging.
Yeah.
the amount
I
that
paid
we
that,
charge
so
now.
I know.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's been
Yeah,
so many years since we raised it.
Because our district is split by Highway 1,
Yeah, that's
we have to bus these kids across there, especially if you know,
Mhm.
yeah, and we've talked about how every year we're just on that fine line of enough drivers. In a perfect world, we'd be running 10 routes this next year. Maybe even 11. We're gonna stay at 9 because that's all we have drivers for. What we don't want to have, what an option that may happen someday if we can't get more drivers into the system is we may have to eliminate a town route, which I know that wouldn't be popular. So we're trying to do everything we can to maintain those town routes. Because I know when I moved to town, I thought it was the greatest thing since sliced bread, that the fact that my kids living east of Highway 1 they could be on their own for 15 minutes while I got off to work and a bus would drop them off at the doorstep. Yeah,
Pick up and drop off, it's crazy about the way it is.
With all the
Radical
cars.
change, it could be a real disaster in town, so.
yeah. So again, a big reason is just kind of the cost of transportation has increased so much, but also just to try to simplify it much more for registration.
Those that qualify for free reduced lunch, do they get a discount on that price?
They either get free transportation or half.
Okay.
This free is free, reduced is one half.
Good
And that's all
question.
based on the nutrition application. She just shares that with me and then I take off
And you
the
take
registration fees and the bus.
They would just go run the bus and the dogs. I'm joking.
you ever thought about being a bus driver? We need one. Yeah, that's right, we'll pay for it.
Well, I'll make a motion to approve the $150 per child, $250 per household, and just waive
For
the
less than 2 miles.
less than 2 miles. Yeah.
Second.
Motion by Leska, second by Lopez. Ian, you're just not fast enough tonight.
I know.
Any further discussion?
No, I just think it's important for the public, we haven't raised fees in this for 11 years.
Yeah.
I mean, like everyone else, we're getting hit with the same gas and stuff. And it's hard because these costs are being passed down to our constituents already.
And and this doesn't impact our daily routes, but for example, activity routes, we've gone in the last 6 years from $13 an hour to $19 an hour. So we continue to try to be competitive. Yeah,
And the other thing to note is keeping the limit of no more than 2 per household. So
Right.
it's,
Well, even if it's $250 per household.
yeah, but yeah, there's no additional fee beyond that. So I think that's also important to note. And we are maintaining the town routes,
share screen.
which a number of districts have long since gone away from. Hearing no further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Second reading or first reading?
I said second because we kind of discussed it the first time.
Well, it wasn't.
There wasn't, I don't know, there was an approval.
Was there any changes from last time?
It's still, I don't know that we approved it. I think we discussed it, but I don't remember.
It was, it moved from a action item to a.
Information
discussion
item.
Topic last meeting. So by.
That's my fault because I told her second.
Yeah. And I missed it. I should have caught it when I looked at it. I just skimmed on down to the documents.
So I do have one question, depending on how it goes tonight. Oh, I guess we will have another board meeting before school starts.
Yep.
So we get it in the handbook and get it in the
Okay.
policy.
Okay, as long as it's before school starts, so we're not. Well, we have the
Yeah, and you
18th.
have hard copies of
Yeah, and it's on.
first reading for first reading.
So, reading about the second handout, which has the yellow. Or the first item, which is the open times conversation. So I can start. I know Adam, you and I had a brief conversation earlier this week. What is highlighted are the things that changed from when we proposed it a couple months ago. And then also, the last time we discussed, we really focused in on the, the span in which it was going to be in effect. So the first day of school through, and then what was updated, the final student attendance day. So that was the discussion around the month of May, all the conflicts we had raised, why they were conflicts, and whether or not we wanted to have a policy that would cater to the conflicts, or whether or not we just wanted to set the policy the way we intended it to be, and then allow the exceptions to then occur and be tracked over time. So that was the change from last meeting when we discussed this policy.
Yeah, I think I was just gonna say the last line, you wanted to make sure it was open because there's gonna be conflicts, right? WAMAC stuff, things are moving and changing. Jamie kind of brought that up. Variances from this policy require the prior approval of the activities director with rationale documented and tracked throughout the year for monitoring purposes. So that way, next year come June, July, we've got a report and hopefully Casey can come and kind of give us an update of, all right, here's what shifted and what had to be on Wednesday evening, maybe outside of, May, or stuff that happened on Sunday, maybe a concert or something where, there's justification, but.
So that I can help guide Casey with the variances, so we stay consistent. What do you envision for Sunday concerts? Would it be if there are in a 2-week window when they want to have it, if there's no vacant Monday, Tuesdays, Thursdays, or, then you skip, or do you just go right to scheduling on Sunday for a concert?
I guess, here's the question I've got. This is something that kind of has been gnawing at me over the last couple of years. So at some point, we shifted from scheduling extracurricular activities around curricular activities to scheduling curricular activities around extracurriculars. Concerts are curricular activities, and I'm not sure why we're moving concerts to accommodate an extracurricular activity. Why isn't the extracurricular activity scheduled on a date where there isn't a conflict with the curricular activity? That would be my question.
Well, what about like a WAMAC scheduled event on a Thursday or whatever that date is?
Well, generally these are occurring because WAMAC is, somebody's moving a date. Something gets rained out, or, there's a flooded field and they can't play a soccer game, and so they move a soccer competition. And it's now.
Well, it's bumping the other.
And so it's bumping into a curricular activity. It seems like we should say, we don't have that data available, rather than saying we've got the data available and then say, okay, we'll move the concert. Or we've got an event where the opponent wants to change it for some reason. And so what I've heard is when we had to move something and we have now a conflict with concert, we need to move it onto a Sunday. And then we drifted into to avoid that, they just started scheduling on a Sunday to avoid conflicts.
So I agree with that. That makes sense. So a curricular would take, basically, that would be the first priority.
Yeah. Which is how it is.
So really in the perfect calendar with no January ice storm or anything like that, where you have to reschedule some basketball games, concerts would be during the week. Is that what we're saying?
Like ideally.
Concerts. So schedule those concerts during the week.
Right, so when the concerts are on the schedule.
Yep.
During the week, if whatever basketball game has to be rescheduled, they can't be like, this is when it is, right?
Yeah.
Don't they have to ask the two schools if it's available?
Yeah.
So he has to say no. That's pretty simple. We
Yeah.
can't do it that night because we have a concert. We have
I mean,
something
just-
scheduled.
And I support putting them on weekdays. Start,
Yeah,
but I will say this, basketball is the weirdest because they already go some Monday, Tuesday, Saturdays. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You could get to, and I'm not saying, I fully support putting concerts on weekdays. I just,
As a priority, yeah.
Not really, when does he?
And I only ask that question because we don't want to see a calendar for the year in August that already has 4 concerts scheduled for Sundays. That's what I wanted to
They're
know.
all scheduled during the week.
Yeah, okay,
You just have to make that concert a bigger priority than a rescheduled ball.
sure.
Yeah, and when does he normally put that?
I think pretty early, isn't it? That they try to schedule that,
It's not
because,
something like January, I'm gonna schedule for March.
no, I think we try to get those,
Moved From
We've-
when
yeah.
it was scheduled, the last couple of years, almost every band and or choir.
I
concert,
I think they
feel
try
like
to
was
look
scheduled.
out at the calendar and to look at what's scheduled and then plug their dates in to kind of lock their dates in so that hopefully things don't get scheduled on top of them.
Right.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Probably want to change topics, but I was just gonna say the 2 to 6 PM on a Sunday, is everybody good with kind of a 4-hour time slot if they have a voluntary practice, or at least we're limiting getting into the evening for dinner and church and stuff in the morning. I mean, you're part of that. If you have something,
Yeah.
you've got that window, it's not gonna go any later.
And if you have like a later church service, you don't have much staff.
Mm-hmm.
This returns us a little bit to what the policy was before we were asked to change it the last time, which was like 1 to 3 or 1 to 4, something like that. It was the open gym time. But there weren't supposed to be coaches present at those, so. This is just, it's a little bit more lenient than what it was, but it's still narrow on a Sunday.
So, hard question. What happens when people go outside this window? If it-
What's the consequence?
I mean, you understand. what I'm
Sure,
saying.
yeah.
Because I'm gonna see it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna come into a coach's meeting on a Sunday, and I mean, because that's how it has been. People are in the gym before, and I'm just saying, if, I get, kind of like having metrics for what, what is the, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If it's, well, I'd rather ask for forgiveness than permission,
Yeah.
that doesn't fly with me.
Well, go ahead.
I was gonna say the way I do this, going back to the whole rationale. Rationale to me is you've exhausted all possibilities, and this was the only choice, and here's my evidence to show why I had to go and make a variance to this policy. If we find we're making
Tons of variances.
tons of variances, then we will have to revisit this
Yeah.
and see, are we okay with the variances? Like they were justifiable? Or did we feel that those variances with the documented rationale were questionable variances?
Right.
Then it helps us with the conversation.
Sure.
I guess
That's what I
I
said.
guess the other question is, were you thinking about variances or were you thinking about things occurring without getting the prior approval and just happening?
Either.
That's an issue between Casey and his coaches. If they do
They
that,
have to put responsibility on them that they, just like being out at 6 o'clock on Wednesday, this is the hard line, you gotta be out there for 6.
I think obviously that would be a factor on what we say would be evaluated and determine whether or not a contract is issued the next year.
And like with any employee, it would be progressive.
Yeah,
I
for
mean,
sure.
yeah, the first time would
For
be
sure. No, I don't. I mean, I don't
reminder of the
want it like that,
policy,
but-
here's,
Right.
this is
Yeah,
your verbal,
absolutely.
yeah,
Absolutely, but I just, we don't think about these things now.
yeah,
Then we're sitting here 4 months from now going,
yeah.
I think we're bending already by opening the door to Sunday, that could have been an easy alternative, just to say, no, we don't have omnibus.
Yeah.
But, so do we need to do,
Official reading.
If we have it attached, so the question is, are there any edits to it or are we okay with it the way it is? Hillary, any thoughts? You think this is workable?
You think this will be helpful?
I think so. And what about summers? Because I've heard from several people that summers are worse than during the school year. So should this be an all year, not school year, but all year?
I feel like this won't really affect the summer, because I feel like all the summer stuff is like during the morning, so it won't really affect.
I
So
think
you
the
think
way I
in
read this,
Summers, you have some time and you're okay, you're not overloaded in the summers.
let me ask this question. The way I read the policy is that the Wednesdays is during the academic year, the Sundays is year round. Am I reading that correctly?
Is there anything happening on Sundays during? Right, that's it. What time is that?
Okay.
6.
Do we need to add
Well, I mean, that's-
that wording to the Sunday part, that it's throughout the year? Or is it just understood? But that, and
What's happening on Sundays? Anything
He said so on
7 on
Sundays.
Sundays on Sundays right now from 6 a.m.
Did you ever practice on Sunday softball?
No, I know baseball did it, they had like optional though. That was
Okay,
like earlier in the season.
okay.
Is there any reason football can't?
No, there's no, I mean, no
Isn't
reason at
that
all.
Eve maybe?
It might be, because, I mean. well, the coach was gonna go for six.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that's the only thing we have on Sundays now. And not that that couldn't be. reworked.
Right.
Wrestling's at 4,
Right. I mean, that's what,
optional.
right. I mean,
I don't know about other activities for color guard in the summer. when
we
you have
don't
band camp.
ever break in. We don't have it on Sunday. When we have games like this. we're not in the same way. Then they're like 2 or 3.
So I'd say, yeah, we could do all year.
Or Sundays, do we add that in to the wording? Or are we gonna make sure that it's interpreted that way?
Sunday's a full year, 365 days, or Wednesdays is. just
And that's-
limited to
yeah, that's
school,
what-
so that during the summer, you can go past 6 o'clock on Wednesday.
So I guess the question is, do we want to add, in the sense, any practices or activities scheduled on Sundays, comma, throughout the year, comma,
Throughout the calendar year,
throughout the calendar year, or throughout the year?
throughout the year.
And
That
there's no,
way
then there's no confusion.
Leaving it up to interpretation, it states that.
That's a good call.
Okay.
That's why you review policies for the contracts.
I do lots of crazy things. So we've got a slide, do we have a motion to approve 508.2 as amended?
Motion to approve 508.2 as amended.
Motion by Wolf,
sorry.
second by Coons. Any further discussion?
The only thing I would say is, talking to a bunch of the coaches, the work they did together, it felt like was a good start,
Start, yep.
but
Yeah.
not finish. And I don't mean just, I talked to just the coaches, but I talked to some of the coaches about having Joel there and Desmond and, you know, sitting down with this master calendar and really going through it, you know, so that Joel doesn't want to put this on the day that is going to be conflict for his kids. You know what I mean? So let's see if we can, because I think now what happens is everyone decides and then no one does, or then they have to fight. I think it would be more collaborative.
Mhm.
It has to be.
Right.
And that's on. PC, the board.
And I think the important thing is that we all want our kids to have the opportunity to do as many things as they can. You also want to bring it out with all the things you want. You know, and so, but if there was a way that, you know, people can look at this, because I heard some good ideas. That, you know, like off-season you can have, like if you're the season right, coming right up, the next off-season, or the next season, you have more, you get priority as the, like, next sport. Besides the sport that's, you know what I mean? And then that always.
You can choose it out.
Correct, correct, exactly.
And that makes sense.
Right, I mean, and so, you know, our players, obviously, softball and baseball, they have a 6-month season. It actually starts 1st of January and ends in June, July. And then throw and do all that stuff for really 6 months. And so that's the part that gets hard, right? Because they actually have permission to start doing that stuff in the state, right? Isn't that right, Davis?
They do,
They
yeah.
do,
Pitchers, catchers, yeah, they do.
You know, and that's always the numbers.
Everyone's a pitcher and catcher.
Yep. Right? You know what I mean? So, I mean, those are the things that really 6 months is what interferes with a lot of stuff. And it's not that it's bad for those, I mean, I'm just saying. You know, that sometimes you gotta have priorities, you know, and I think the next season, reasonably, probably that's priority, you know what I mean? And so,
This was not an easy task.
oh, no.
But this was a good task
Yeah,
to do.
for sure.
And it really is armed with where, as you said, you're going to have these discussions about the strategic student center like this. This really enforces that and the spirit of what we're trying to do. Is very important task.
Well, and I think in some ways, we're just starting this process. I mean, this is setting the policy, but what other things can we do throughout so that they're not all fighting each other? And the problem is when they fight each other, who gets caught?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And that's the part I get. You know, what I mean? The grown-ups in the situation, you can look at it from a student center. But that's the part that it's frustrating, that it's not a student, it's from a student's perspective. So that would be what I have to say. That coaches can see, all right, what's her review today? She has this at this time, she has this at this time, she has this at this time. But really what they know is, I have her in for 2.5 hours or 2 hours. That's all they know. They don't know what else she's doing. And then they're like, well, why is Hillary so sluggish today? Well, if you really knew what Hillary was doing all day, I mean, we've had times when basketball coaches would yell at kids who were at winning edge in the morning and baseball afternoon, and they didn't have enough kids to play, and they were up there and they weren't hustling the basketball, and they're just screaming at them. I'm like, you know,
Yeah.
you're not right. I mean, those are the things that are needed. You know what I mean? And so I think that work still needs to be done.
If there's no more discussion, all those in favor of approval of the first reading of board policy 508.2 as amended, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. First reading of board policy 905.1, community use of school district buildings and sites and equipment. Policy committee?
Okay, so I'm just not sure if we need to think about this, but what this is basically when will our facilities be able to be utilized, open, not just for school activities, but for outside school as well.
I will, yes.
Okay.
So this would be just, again, when the district allows the public to utilize the facilities. So the reason why I believe an earlier time on Sunday is authorized, and this wouldn't be for the high school wrestling team to come in at noon. This would be for the 5th grade travel basketball team to schedule a slot to come in and practice, because we run into trouble. So we have kind of a lottery, not a lottery, but we had kind of where you come to a meeting and you schedule times when you can bring the youth or the younger ones in to utilize our facilities. And for instance, the middle school and the high school gyms, they're really not touchable during the week because there's activities in them every single night. So we try to get as many slots as we can open for a wide variety of teams from 3rd grade through 8th grade that want to utilize those our facilities. And so that middle school, for instance, is on Saturdays goes from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. and on Sundays from noon to 8 p.m. So we're trying to create as many slots as we can, and that's why.
And SIS as well.
And we used to open the Lakeview gym for 3rd and 4th grade, like basketball, but that's been taken away because that all winter long, those nets are dropped. And we utilize that for high school teams or little league travel teams to use those batting cages. And so, we've got hitting going on in the winter, we've got basketball going on in the winter, volleyball going on in the winter. And so we've kind of expanded the time slots for our facilities for the community, not for high school sports, if that makes
High
sense.
school can still be between
2 and 6.
2 and 6.
Correct.
But from noon to 2 and from 6 to 8, the rest of it can be.
Yeah.
Or if the divisions wrestling, I'm presuming. From 2 to 6, if there's no.
Well, yeah, if there's something not.
And we would never schedule like from 2 to 6, we wouldn't open up slots at the high school because we protect that for high school teams from 2
We
to
doesn't use
6.
the high school at all for other teams, unless
You're
it's
correct.
to do that. We don't use the high school facilities at
Yeah,
all.
the only other exception to like Sunday would be, I know Booster Club does
A basketball
basketball
tournament.
tournament. I think there's like 2 weekends where they use that for a boys tournament, girls tournament. So
For- as a money
they go
maker.
Saturday, Sunday. They-
And then the rest of the youth wrestling.
But really, that would be part of the exception stuff like we talked about it at Dr. Davis. But really, doors wouldn't unlock until noon for those other youth teams on a Sunday.
That's why the time's different. And it actually confused some coaches when they go to this policy and say, well, we can start practicing at noon. No, that's for our facility use for the public to come in. This is yours.
Yep.
The 500 is yours.
So consistent with the board policy on open times. which is what we just talked about.
Then what?
District facilities will not be available for use for activities involving Solon school students after 6 p.m. on Wednesday or before noon on Sundays.
And we had to break that sentence apart.
Yep.
I think period after Wednesdays, and then it'll be additionally. Because this was tied to, the old policy had, one of the conflicts was one policy at 1 o'clock, one policy at noon.
Yeah, yeah.
And so that's what we got. That's one of the things that led to us digging into this, is there were conflicts
Right.
between the policies. And so I think the question is, how do you word this? Because it,
Well,
You know, I
don't
guess-
even know if I like involving Solon students.
But that's for Wednesday though.
no. I guess here's the easiest way. Strike consistent with board policy and open times. Cross-reference that down below. Just strike that out. District facilities will not be available for activities involving Solon students after 6 p.m. on Wednesdays or before noon on Sundays, except as may be otherwise authorized by the board on a case-by-case basis.
Do you want authorized by the board or authorized by the director?
Well,
That's the activity director. You don't want to be releasing it.
I think that therein lies the question. Facility usage is under the authority of the board, not,
Do they
It's
come?
not activities, right?
yeah, this is not activities.
And his mental health.
But they're not,
They're going through Chris too, right? They're scheduling and,
I don't do that anymore. Casey handles it all.
yeah, so really he is kind of handling that master schedule. Yeah.
Yeah, he's handling it all.
You want to say by the board or designee?
I think the question is on deciding on Wednesday night. In the past, we've let the AD handle things with regard to our teams and variances. I think the question is, if somebody wants to, if somebody wants to hold an event that conflicts with this, where it's going to involve Solon students, so, if the XYZ softball club wants to say, we want to hold a Sunday morning softball tournament every Sunday during the summer from 8 till noon, do we want Casey making a decision on that, or do we want that coming to the board for broader discussion about whether or not the variance is warranted? So I think that's the question is.
That doesn't, it's not a conflict, what you just described. The way I understand it on the open times. Because that's a club that's outside of
Right, but they-
sponsored events.
Right, but if they're targeting a softball clinic that's targeting towards our softball team, we're gonna bring it, some outside group, the group of parents brings it in, says we want to have a softball training club, come in and do something,
Sponsoring it,
sponsoring, we're gonna do it every Sunday morning from 8
well,
till,
if we're sponsoring it, you can't do that.
No,
'cause that's
not if we're
violation of
sponsoring.
Open times.
but if we're not sponsoring it. If some outside group comes in, so we've had things where we've done things on track and field. We've had some folks who wanted to use the facility on Sundays for an all-day thing, which is open to all track athletes in the area. And so the question is, does that, it's not run by the school, but it's targeting our students. It's like, we want some students to come and pay us money to do this in our facility.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
we can't release that.
We can't if it's,
Okay.
we can't if it's being done in our building.
They were not being open before.
For-
then you can.
True.
Yeah.
Okay, now I see.
Yeah, because we can say, no,
There's one thing,
so we should not make them before noon.
the football field is open
To the public,
to
yeah.
the public. It is a district facility. If kids want to go down there, 10 kids want to go do down, they're still students. They've gone on their own and they're using a district facility. You know, I mean, where we really get hung is on indoor facilities, where we really get hung up.
Well, so let's say Red Zone, which is a flag football league
Right.
for 5th and 6th grade out of Iowa City.
Right.
Let's say they just want to come and use our facilities every Sunday and run games and use our field as one of the rotating fields. The board can say no. Because they would have to rent, I mean, we have a rental.
For sure.
Yeah, is that what
For
you're, we can turn that down. I mean, it may involve 2 of our kids, it may involve 50 of our kids.
Right.
But because it involves our facility,
So my biggest thing is this, what I do not want to discourage, and I don't want it in music or where kids be able to go down and do what they want to do without coaches or without people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If Hillary wants to go down to the batting cages on her own and practice, she's using a district facility, and maybe it's her and 10 of her girlfriends. And then, I don't want to discourage that. Now, what I do want to discourage is the coach being down there and coaching them on those sides, but you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But the flip side is doing that, I want to encourage Hillary to do whatever she wants in that regard. What I don't want is some coach from Iowa City coming up here and charging our students to use our batting cages under their instruction. Because
Well,
that's,
that- yeah, that would definitely-
we've always said no to that.
Yeah.
We've always said no to that. And we've had those,
Like club teams that.
we've had that before.
But I want
Yeah.
to, like, if someone could get in here and they want to practice the violin or whatever, then they can get in here. And I want them to be able to do that. You know what I mean? And they are going to be Solon students using our facilities.
Right.
That's the part
Because
that,
there are times where student athletes will call up a coach and say, hey, can you open up the gym? Usually that coach will go down and say, sure.
these are the, right, I mean, I
And
want,
so is there constraint in which they can do that? They can't do that before noon or
well,
past 6 PM on Wednesdays.
that's
Good
my
question.
biggest question, because if you really want to get in there by yourself and get work done, you know what I mean? Because everything is organized. Right? Everything is organized. If kids want an opportunity to work on stuff, you know, sometimes the kid just wants to go in and shoot. That's what he wants to
Do
do.
we need to specify something about organized?
Well, yeah, that's the part. I want kids to have the freedom to go do what they want to do.
But you also want those doors being unlocked too
Correct.
early on Sunday either.
Correct.
That's the way I envision this. The
Right.
green light goes on and you have access to the building.
Absolutely. I mean, these are the parts that I'm weighing in my mind, right? Because if you say district facilities and 10 kids want to play 7-on-7 by themselves and they're all Solon kids, they're in violation if they're at 10 AM on Sunday. That- Right, I mean, by this policy. I'm not, I don't know how to word it. so that's okay.
right.
But I don't, and the
Not
fine
really,
on
not
this,
unless they're authorized by the activities director.
yeah, but I mean, 10 kids call up Reese and say, hey, let's go down to the field and screw around, blah, blah, blah. There's 10 kids using the field down there, or whatever, hey, and it's not under the window, they are in violation of this policy. Because it says Solon students,
so you want the word organized in front of the word activities?
I guess.
No. Because they gotta find organized.
Right, I agree, but you understand the point I'm trying to make.
Well, it's
though.
volunteer, whatever.
Right, no, I,
Well,
but you-
that's-
Sponsored might be a better word.
Would it be any different in your scenario if 6 guys, like you said, just say, hey, let's go play some, let's go down on the field and throw the ball around at 10 a.m. on Sunday, or let's walk over to SIS and use their goal setter baskets and do a pickup game of 3-on-3
right,
at 10 a.m. on a Sunday. That's our facility too.
right.
So, because that's a little different. So we have
Okay.
to Go unlock the doors.
Yeah, that's true.
And then
Yeah.
the person that goes and unlocks the doors is probably.
We're talking
gonna
outdoor
probably
facilities
gonna
compared
be
to an
the
indoor
Well, that's the
gym.
part though, but it still says facility. So
Yeah.
That's the part I'm trying to figure out.
Or events involving someone's schools instead of activities. That's what we're trying to avoid, right?
Right.
Events.
Cause I want kids to go
Sponsored
do what they want to do,
events.
you know? That's my
A
only,
voluntary practice, a sponsored.
right,
event
see, that's the
versus
slippery
volunteer
slope,
practice.
right?
It's a sponsored event, the coach shows up.
Yeah.
That's, he's now the sponsor of that event,
Well, coach shows up, he's involved.
even if it's voluntary or not.
Well, the issue is, the coaches have the other policy they're dealing with. They're dealing with the open times, not this one. This only in theory covers groups that are not
Right.
sponsored by the district.
So do we need this at all if it's covered under the rental?
This constrains the rental agreements. This constrains what the administration can do. with the agreements. That's why it's in there originally, is to constrain when the facilities can be made available. Because otherwise, you could do them whenever. The board is limiting the ability to rent the facilities during these times.
So we have the procedure, not a policy, regarding how, and who, and when we rent, and they have to fill out information on a rental agreement. And when they do we have to, they specify who's there, who's control, are you charging a fee, whatever, and then there's guidelines in which we approve or deny the rental. When you can only rent it for these hours, yada, 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 so that we get out of the split hairs, where I think this conversation.
Well, I just don't want to write a policy we can't afford. I mean,
Agreed.
right, where we're like, there's theoretically kids on the field that are using solar facilities. You know, I don't want to write us into a policy. That's my only thing. I agree with everything you're doing. I just, the wording on the policy is.
Yeah.
What if you about, instead of four activities, about 2 groups involving Solon students?
Say that again.
2 groups or teams. To try and take it away from an activity to what we're really talking about groups of people who want to use the space.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just speaking from personal experience. We would have our practice, we would lift, Cam and AJ would go down to the field, maybe till 7 o'clock at night, and maybe we don't, but they would be in violation of this policy.
I guess,
And then, I mean, I'm just trying, I mean, because sometimes we just think,
What-
right, see, those are the things that become weird to me.
So I
So
guess-
I don't want to write a
So
policy.
with the indoor stuff, it's, somebody has to go on.
Correct.
And we can just say, no, we're not unlocking it. Like,
Or
does
we
it
can
have
say-
to be in a policy
You can
for us?
say indoor facility, I don't know.
Does it have to be in a policy for us to be like, these are the
Because
guidelines,
the
right?
open, what we just resolved covers what we want to do, to agree. with
Because
this.
if we're gonna, if I want to reserve a gym indoor for
What-
color guard to practice in, I have to put it on the schedule with Casey. He can just block off those times and nobody can schedule them. We don't need a policy for that. He can just do it. I don't know why we need a policy for something Casey can just block those off on the calendar and nobody can schedule it. That's a much more simple solution than us doing a
Well-
policy that people can't.
So the only thing I will say there is next AD decides that they don't have a problem with Sunday morning rentals or Wednesday night rentals to target Solon students. And there's nothing that tells them they can't do it. So you and I can say you shouldn't do that, but if there's no policy that says you can't do it, then then there's no constraint on it. So the question is whether or not we want to constrain the use of the facilities.
You just say indoor, that pretty much takes a lot of that out, of it, 'cause doors are locked.
Right.
Yeah.
targeting, I mean, you're
It's like anything else, like a rec center, I want to shoot or something up in Mount Vernon, I have to schedule time, I can go up there and
Right.
go to the facility.
because the only facilities we have in town on space is the school. so we
Yeah.
do not have it.
Yeah.
It's definitely not open. They close it.
You wanna move this
There
to
are
first
other
reading
rec
next?
center facilities, very limited
Let the
hours
board
facilities.
Policy committee work on it.
We're gonna come to some resolution on this, or do we need another one?
Well, either way, it's gotta go to another, like a,
We'll have to, we can approve a first, we can tweak it, make a first reading, and then come back and change it.
What are we trying to accomplish here? You're trying to set the policy for what is currently being practiced that we can all agree on. Regarding the rental of the facilities, right? Is it the rental or the use? Because I thought we
How about
took care of the use, we did open time.
How about this? District facilities will not be available for rental if they target Solon students. Or district facilities will not be available for rental after 6 PM on Wednesdays or before noon on Sundays if they target Solon students, except as may be otherwise authorized by the board on a case-by-case basis.
I would say yes, like, so change the word to activity structure.
Why do we have to say targeting some students? Why can't we just say?
Well, so then the question comes into things like if the Eastern Iowa Brass Band wants to use the auditorium on a Wednesday night. If we want to have a candidate, if the economist wants to have a candidate forum for the school board election, can they have that on Wednesday night? So the goal is to free up students and not necessarily keep groups, if there's an outside group that doesn't involve students at all, can they use our facilities in times that we're trying to protect? So,
And I'm not trying to be a pain, I just don't want us to write a policy that we know will be in violation of. I appreciate, like, I wasn't trying to stir up what it's here. I just don't want kids to use our facilities.
well, the Solon students make sense for 6 PM Wednesdays.
Right.
And then basically you're saying the club stuff and kids can go shoot, they've got access on Sunday at noon, or any outdoor facilities, obviously, they can use whatever. You have to specify that, the field's always open, there's always a.
And you could work out a note that goes at the bottom for next month to the second reading that says note, unlocked outdoor facilities are available to the general public for use. At any time when they're unlocked. That could solve that
So
problem.
just put the note underneath.
Yeah, that we could add a note there, and you guys can work out the exact language for that for next month. And add that for the second reading, because that may solve the problem.
Yeah, and those are the things
Yeah. that makes sense.
Facilities are available.
For use, general use by the public when they're unlocked. Only something like that.
Can you repeat that?
So we've got notes down at the bottom, and the thought was gonna be to
Also
do.
no, no, also no,
Yeah.
also no.
It may become note 1, note 2, note 3.
Is our baseball facility, anybody can use it?
Not locked.
That's another thing, that's not locked, so that's a school, I mean, what are you gonna do about that? If you're gonna say,
I don't know.
yeah,
You're talking about Howard Brown. though.
Well, he does lock some of them, isn't there a way to kind of lock or put a thing that says not available?
I think they do have the locks to those gates.
Then all they have to do is just run it.
Yeah, I mean, because there's, yeah. But it makes sense, I mean, it doesn't matter what field. Those dark green patches.
Oh,
Draw fertilizer.
All right, you better roll.
Do we need to change this? Is the way it's currently written at all? Or what it was previously written, is there any reason to change this now that we've resolved the open times?
I would say maybe even with the board, maybe add in athletic director. Right? Otherwise authorized by the board.
And
Or you could just make it authorized by the superintendent or as designated. We've done that in places, and Davis can either do it or he can.
Assign them.
I think we saw a lot of districts had policies that on Sundays, nothing was approved on Sundays unless it was approved by the superintendent.
Okay, that makes sense. Well, if we can improve this, then we can jump to it and work on it for the next 5 weeks to do it, so we'll come to something.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was, yeah, and I definitely didn't want to hang down. It was-
Hey, I've been in the last couple of years, so I've dodged it.
Your comment
It
was
is-
on
it is the
Monday.
pain and suffering that comes with your first year on the board.
That's right. I
Added
had
budget.
budget. I told Tim I wasn't running this, I was on call.
Thanks for coaching me through that.
Okay, so
Motion to approve, code number 905.1 with amendment.
as amended,
As amended.
I will hand Davis what I think are the.
All right.
amendments, and then we'll,
All right.
then you guys can fix it next month if
Second.
there's something messed up.
Okay.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed. Motion carries unanimously. Moving on, because we are now on to the school depository resolution. We have a new form this year,
Find it.
and these are the banks we can use: Bridge Bank, Hills Bank, Midwest One Bank, Quad Cities Bank and Trust, Solon State Bank, and UMB Bank. We're authorizing each of them a maximum deposit of no more than $35 million each. If only we had that much money, we'd be in
Oh,
good
we have
shape.
to move some around.
In case somebody wins the lottery and donates, a lot of money to us, and $210 million that we need to find some place to go with.
These are some special reasons that we have to.
We have to specify the maximum amount, and then there are some statutory limits. I think we can't have more than a certain amount. I think we're probably authorizing the max amount.
I'm sure.
So, and as you will note, under good practices, this is one that's going to require the yeas and nays. So,
So yea is approving the resolution, maybe.
well, Chris is going to call the roll
As soon as someone makes a motion.
as soon as someone makes a motion, and then we'll go from there.
Motion to approve the resolution with depositories.
As
Depositories as presented.
Chris, you want the form so you can write names down? Motion by Coons, second by Robles.
Wolf,
Yeah.
Robles,
Yay.
Coons,
Yes.
Alaska,
Yay.
Brown,
Yay.
no nays, all yays.
Yay.
Okay, moving on. Legislative priorities, you have them. You are on the clock. If you haven't gotten them to Chris, please send your 5. This will be discussed at the next month's meeting, and we will,
So I just had one question. Some of them on there didn't have numbers by them, but one of them was school safety. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? It's not like.
so where was, I have not looked through them yet. There may be new ones that were added in here this year.
So we get 5, right?
Yeah.
Where was that one at, Dan?
I don't remember. I saw it once, but then I could remember.
Was it a bullet underneath one of them?
Maybe. I thought obviously that was probably one.
Yeah.
And then I could remember.
We need to.
Just keep that on this folder with everything.
Okay. If there, again, the other reminder is if there are ones that you would like us to consider, you may write your own resolution that we would consider as a board. And then that'll come for discussion. The top 5 from the board will be identified by Chris. You guys will go over them and come to some resolution on what our priorities are. We generally take the top 5 combined, unless there's some that are tied or close at the bottom. So with that,
Yeah, and Cassie, if you have any questions, I might kind of real quickly gave you, okay, but everybody else has kind of done this. That's a good one, so.
Thank you.
okay. With that. So we're, just so we can keep this moving, and just for the reference of folks, anybody that might be online, we are going to dispense with talking points tonight. There's meeting setup going on. We will be going to closed session here. We will come back solely for the purpose of adjourning the meeting. And so I apologize for those that look forward to our talking points, but tonight you get none. With that, I will entertain a motion to enter closed session. Motion by, so you gotta use, you actually gotta use the words.
Can,
Okay.
is it written something I write?
That's right up there. Yep.
Okay.
Motion to move into closed session pursuant to Iowa Code Section 21.5(1)(I) superintendent evaluation.
Second.
Motion by Kuhn, second by Alesta. Chris, can you call the yeas and nays?
Wolf,
Yes.
Rockholz,
Yes.
Coons,
Yep.
Alexa,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes,
all yeas, no nays.
we are now
Closed
moving into closed
session
session.
is 6:76. We can take a minute, so
It's 7. Our next regular school board meeting is Thursday, August 18th, 2022. As a note, I will be absent during that meeting, and Alaska will be running it. I will not be joining you remotely for that meeting.
can I make one comment
Yes.
about board learning?
Yes.
So we only have a couple people that aren't at their quota for this school year. I do have, and I'll let the two of you know that, but I do have that Sir Ken Robinson, there's 3 separate things that would be 15 points, and I'd love for us all to do that.
I
at a
will
board.
share you with the things that I've done. They're probably not on your record.
That's perfect.
I'm
That's-
still, we
that's
still got.
perfect.
one.
Yeah. So because I know at this time of year, oh, we have to do board learning, I mean, we're to the point now that we're good. We have a winner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll see how,
But-
we'll see how,
My
we'll see how-
close, my second.
But
comes up. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion
Second.
by Kuhn, second by Alaska. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries unanimously. We are adjourned.